Welcome to Two Hypnotherapists Talking with me, Denise Mejia, in Delaware, USA.
And me, Martin Ferber, in Preston, UK.
This weekly podcast is for anyone and everyone who'd like to know more about the fascinating subject of hypnosis and the benefits it offers.
I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and psychotherapist.
I'm a retired medical doctor turned consulting hypnotist.
We are Two Hypnotherapists Talking.
So let's get on with the episode.
Okay, let's get on with the show indeed. Episode 6. Can you believe it, Denise? We're halfway through the series already.
No, I can't. This year has just disappeared on me completely. But during this year, I met our guest, who is really fascinating. Please welcome Mayra Sanchez, who's going to talk to us about something is in that complementary medicine area. And we've opened this season up to a lot more ways that we can work together. We want this to be an integrative therapy. So, hi, Mayra.
Hi.
Take it away.
Thank you so much for having the opportunity to be here with you both. I'm super excited, and I love dialoguing about this subject.
Yeah, Mayra, welcome
medicine.
to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on here. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I needed to welcome you on, so please carry on.
Thank you so much, Martin. So again, as I was saying, integrative medicine is my passion and what helped me be able to overcome the challenges that I had in my life, in my health, and in my money, and just in my general welfare. So Chinese medicine and Qigong really supported me in developing the disciplines that I needed to be better able to handle the demands of life.
Excuse me a minute. You haven't trained in Chinese medicine yourself. You were a patient of a Chinese medicine practitioner?
I was, and I did a second training for medical Qigong, which I don't really see patients under. I did for a little while, but I found that my sweet spot was really the coaching aspect. However, I do tap into the energy of medical Qigong to support my clients and myself in delivering the best possible opportunity for healing success.
Wonderful. What kind of problems do people come to you for?
Well, generally, as I was saying before, people come with the problem, the biggest pain they have in the moment. They are often not aware that because we're so vitally connected, that sometimes where we feel the pain is not where the problem exists. And my strength is supporting people in getting deeper into themselves so that they can identify the root causes of the lack of well-being or the disease or the lack of ease, as we talk about in Chinese medicine. My teacher and trainer, perhaps because he was an Oriental medicine doctor, really had us focus in on that, on the fact that from their perspective, they don't look at illness or disease as something more than an opportunity. You know, it's an opportunity for greater harmony in the body and in the spirit and in the mind. But we don't, here in the Western society, we don't think about balance that way. We don't think about ourselves in that holistic, cooperative understanding. We tend to just think about the mind, or just think about the body, or just think about the spirit. And then whichever one we like the best, we tend to develop the most.
Yeah. That's unfortunate, don't you think?
I do. And because I learned the same way, that's what made me so passionate about this, because I was able to break through that fragmentation, that compartmentalization in my life, where I thought of my work as separate from my personal life, and I thought about my family as different from my own self. You know, it's like all together, and learning to be able to establish a better balance with all of it together is possible using that type of mindset, that Eastern model rather than the Western model.
Right, but integrating them if needed. You know, if your pain in your right lower quadrant is because you have appendicitis, Qigong is probably not going to fix the problem. You know, we need to be able
Right.
to work together with all of these things. It will
Agreed.
probably do a lot to help you recover as you recuperate after surgery.
Agreed. Agreed. And, it's really fascinating. And I'll share a personal example from myself, right? Based on Chinese medicine, this time of year is the time of the lung, and it's the time of letting go. That's what we're practicing, is letting go. As we look around in nature is, all the trees are letting go of their leaves, and they do it so gracefully and so elegantly. And it's a beautiful opportunity for us to mimic that same idea, but how hard it is to let go. I was raised by a control freak, and I learned very well how to control, how to control. And it creates this stranglehold kind of situation. So letting go, it doesn't come naturally to me. And my father passed on October 1st, and that was a very difficult.
Not this year.
No, in
Okay.
2019, sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
He passed in 2019 on October 1st, but October 1st stays in my cellular memory as this time when I just start to notice my energy go down, right? And this past week, I started experiencing some vague pains in my shoulder, and some tension in my thumbs, and some waking up at night, which these are not normal behaviors. And it took me a minute to establish the understanding, oh, this could be related to this event, that my body is still holding the trauma, the grief, the awareness of this event. I miss my dad terribly. It's been 4 years, but it was like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And so it really gave me an opportunity to allow myself to go deeper into that grief rather than ignore it, and allow myself to reconcile, right? To get better at letting go of that control, and white knuckling it through life, and allow myself to compassionately love myself through this stage.
White knuckling it through life. I like that expression.
That's what control freaks do. They just white knuckle it.
No, it's interesting talking about that thing with October the 1st. And obviously, I'm sorry for your loss, and that date means such a lot to you. But that date, I think, for so many people, especially over here, as you say, the trees let go of the leaves, the days suddenly get a lot shorter. And it is quite a symbolic date, isn't it? There seems to be this seismic shift in attitude as soon as we go past the 1st of October. And I always think, well, 30,000 years ago, and perhaps we were all living in caves and what have you, what did we do then at this time of the year? Because we didn't even sort of plant our own fields or anything, did we? We just went out and hunted. What would we do at this time of year? We would more or less hibernate, I would imagine. It wouldn't be safe to go outside. There were no lights outside. And I think some of this is, a throwback to that in our sort of biological programming as well, and our mindset. What do you think, Denise?
Yeah, I think for people in business of any kind also are thinking, oh my goodness, it's the last quarter of the year.
That's really the key component that I agree with, because our modern lifestyle has so many conveniences. It makes it so much easier to work ourselves to death. And not allow ourselves to give a pause that's appropriate, so that we can manage the reactions, the traumas, that we can deal with those things, because life is demanding and awful things happen. We talked about my father's passing. Grief is an extra special kind of difficult task for me, because in this time of year, October through December, I've had several losses of very close relatives of mine. On the 29th of October, Sandy in 2012 hit the hit my house and destroyed the first level of my house, leaving my family, my pets, and myself homeless for 6 months. So I have a lot of practice at learning how to redistribute my energy, time, and money so that I could recover from these crisis moments.
Did you find your attitude to the flooding in the city and around area? This last weekend, there was so much flooding in New York.
Yes, well, of course, I'm very sensitive to flooding. So anytime I've seen the flooding in California and other countries this summer, and what's going on here in New York, it reminded me again of all those same memories and feelings and ideas. And I know what those people are going through.
Yeah. But because of your training, you were able to release it earlier, or does it change the way you respond?
I think that what it really did for me was it gave me a new focal point, right? It's very difficult to be in the middle of a crisis and be focused on the positives. Right?
Agreed.
Focused on the gift, right? It's very difficult because you're just like trying to get through the day, right? You just, for me at that time, I was very much focused on how do I get the house back in shape so we can come live in here again, right? It was exhausting. And because it was a collective event, wood was, there wasn't enough, there was a wood shortage, right? There was difficulty, they blocked off the whole neighborhood. So there wasn't any getting in and out of, I live on Staten Island and my family lives on other aspects of New York. There was no way I could get off the island. There were a lot of unintended things that created a lot more challenge for me and made it easier for me to feel victimized by it. And that's really the key thing that I think that the two of you and I can relate to or relate together on is our attitude and our perspective, our mental concepts of what is happening to us and all that self-talk. That really does a lot to either encourage recovery or
the reverse
recovery from happening.
I found sort of over the years since I sort of retrained and became a therapist, sort of challenging some of my own thinking patterns, those cognitive distortions that we all have to some degree, with the all or nothing thinking, and that kind of thing. I've challenged that a lot more and sort of benefited from that knowledge, as it were. But it's those thought processes, isn't it? When, as you say, when a crisis happens, the primitive side of the brain goes into overdrive and the logical brain shuts down. We're just thinking about preserving ourselves.
Right.
How did you cope through COVID then, may I ask? Because you're on Staten Island there. You weren't able, I would imagine you weren't able to travel over to Manhattan or anything, were you, through COVID?
I didn't very well. And I tell you, for me, COVID was a godsend. COVID was really a time where I got an opportunity to really stop being there again for others and identify, okay, this is the time where I can be here for myself. And who am I today? Because who am I today is not who I was in 2012, and certainly not who I was when I was 20. And so each and every crisis has allowed me to, again, ask myself that question and remove the things from my identity that no longer belong, and discover the things that are always true about me, and the values and the aspects of myself that I want to continue to develop because they're strengths, right? That's the major difference in my life, that my journey of healing has helped me learn or relearn, which is I started out with the idea that to get my best, I had to abuse myself, to basically kick my own blankety blank into gear, right? That's how I learned to succeed. So I have relearned to succeed through a positive reinforcement by identifying what my natural strengths are, what I was born to do, and stop trying to develop my weakness or hide my weaknesses, because my weaknesses just support this type of thing, collaboration with other people who have strengths where I'm weak. And it really challenged that self-sufficient idea and that independent goal that really isn't very supportive of life. Interdependency is so much more fuller and joyous. And
interestingly, though, I'm thinking, you're there in New York and you're talking about let's all be a little perhaps less Western in our thinking, with your Qigong. And then I look at China today, and we look at the phenomenal developments that have happened there over the last 20, 30 years. And now when we think of Shanghai, for example, we think of somewhere absolutely as busy and 10 times the size of New York. Do you feel there perhaps practices have sort of dampened down over recent years, and they're going to have the same kind of crises with mental health, for example, that we currently have?
I do. And I can look in Puerto Rico as an example, right? Because I went there as a child, and I am very clear about what Puerto Ricans culturally were like when they lived on the island, and how different they are when they leave the island, right? And so my parents came from the island, so they had a particular kind of mindset, a particular kind of attitude and values that they instilled in us. But it's very interesting to notice that my brothers, I'm the fourth and the only female of the children that my parents had. And it was always really interesting for me to realize that my brothers had a completely different attitude than I had in life. And part of that is because they were born and raised on the island, and I was born and raised here. The other part that I discovered over time is that the differences were related to the fact that my parents were together when my brothers were raised in their formative years, but they were apart when I was raised.
Okay.
So that unique difference made it seem like I understand the whole movie based on walking in halfway through. If you can imagine
I like that analogy.
It's me. I convinced myself, I understand the movie because I only saw the half to the end. And then I was angry that my brothers didn't agree with me, and they didn't understand,
They'd seen the whole movie.
Right. And
that's a great analogy.
Thank you.
I love it.
Over time, I learned that I didn't have enough information about the whole movie to judge, right? And so it helped me find ways to have compassion in the conflict for them and for me, and to listen more with empathy rather than tell them, oh, this is my perspective, and again, disrespect that part of it. And so when I go back to Puerto Rico and I still have family there, I can recognize the influence that the United States has had on the island over the last 40 years. And they, my cousins were there when they had a big flooding event. I think it was Maria. And what was really fascinating to me was to notice how dependent they are on help, external help, and how people who were still very much inward, meaning they were less touched by the Western influence
being infected by Western influence before they went back in there. Okay.
And the convenience, right? Because that's the virus. The virus, in my opinion, is the convenience. They were able to recover faster because they were not dependent on outside help. They were able to go back to the land, right? After the flood went, the sun came back out, and they were able to work the land to support themselves. And that was something that I did during Sandy that my neighbors were not doing, because I had been trained in that type of environment as a young kid. I'm not dependent on my phones constantly to live.
I'm wondering about this. My husband's Dominican, so very similar culture to Puerto Rico. I went to medical school there and then did my training here. But when Francisco is here and there are administrative snafus, or you have to stand in line he reacts it just like an American would. And if we go back to Santo Domingo, I try really hard not to react like somebody from here. He just slides right back into it's Tuesday. We'll spend it waiting for the power to be turned back on. It's a very different.
Denise, maybe touchy here, but does he suddenly become more dominant or something more?
No, we don't have that problem.
So getting back on topic then, Mayra, do you think when you were saying about the people of Puerto Rico, San Juan was where I went over there, the people of Puerto Rico, that sense of community is still there, whereas the ones who were Americanized or have lived over in the States, it's not, that sense of family or greater community.
Right. Well, I think they're coexisting. Mm-hmm. And the light of that original community-based success is diminishing.
Okay.
While the other light of the other light of expectations around, hey, we're Americans like everyone else, and therefore we should have the same benefits. They don't. But they don't know why they don't. And I think that's really a key thing. And again, it brings me back to my brothers and I have a different attitude, right? Like, I don't expect someone to come and rescue me. And that's what supported me in my recovery efforts after Sandy. I waited for maybe 24 hours looking out, there's empty streets, there's holes, there's water. I've never experienced anything like that. So I definitely went through, the insurance company's going to come.
Yeah.
They didn't come. FEMA's going to come. They didn't come. My family's going to be able to come. They couldn't come. So all of a sudden I was like, okay, what am I going to do? What can I influence? And so that controlling aspect of me came in online and addressed what I could control, what I could influence. And as I maintain that mindset every day, little by little, I move through the stages of recovery.
And that's it. You need integration of all of the parts of you. Yeah,
exactly. And there were times when I needed naps. And, my mom, like I said, she's a control freak. She was very much against me taking naps. She thought, oh my gosh, you're sick. There's something wrong with you. I was like, Mom, I'm not sick. I am just running and running and running constantly. I need to nap.
In order not to get sick.
Exactly.
Exactly. So self-care, that all important thing.
Exactly. Like, my mom doesn't understand that healing and recovery is about doing things that feel counterintuitive. It doesn't, taking a rest doesn't seem like the right thing to do when everything is out of a place, right? It just doesn't seem like the right thing to do. However, it is the best thing to do.
It's part of that.
It's the wisest thing to do.
Right. But it's part of that sort of the overused word toxic, but it really is that, the sun's still out, I should be making money. I am conscious, therefore I should be trying to fix this problem now. That kind of go. And that's very much an American phenomenon.
Yeah. I mean, my impression is of everything that I see on TV from America. Everybody wants it faster. Everybody wants it easier. Everything's now, isn't it? That sense of immediacy with everything. And you see, I suppose it happens in any big cities as well. People working from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. in their offices, and they grab some food on the way home, go to bed, and do it all again the next day. That's no way to live, is it? And
there's an influence from that too, because now we are also connected around the world, and when it's daylight here, it isn't in Australia. And yet we seem to think we're supposed to respond all the time, no matter who pings us.
You know what I find amazing, Mayra, the difference in holiday vacations or vacation time off work between Britain and America. We get 4 weeks holiday plus the bank holidays over here. So you get near enough 6 weeks off work paid.
And that's the standard. There are people who get more time too.
Yeah, that's the standard. That's if you work in McDonald's, that's what holidays you get.
That's amazing.
And may I just also say maternity leave?
Yeah.
Which is still a pipe dream for most of us.
And ambulances are free.
And I think it's really powerful that you bring that up, because I've known lots of people who have the time off and cannot take it.
Mm.
That the time off feels like a punishment to them. So therefore, it doesn't matter that they have the time, the holiday time. It doesn't do anything to increase their quality of life, because they don't enjoy it.
No, they don't know what to do. They can't unwind.
I don't know about the UK, but several other European countries, it's mandated. You don't, no, you need a vacation now. This is when you're, if you didn't take it before, you take it now. There is, how you can't carry your vacation over. You can only bank so many days before the next one. I think that is probably the idea of that came up thinking it's good for people to take vacation. Then they won't get sick and they'll be able to continue to work for us, or at least less likely to get sick. And it's been interpreted as, if I'm not there, John's going to get the promotion, or I'm going to miss all these other opportunities. And that, I think, is where Eastern philosophy is going to help us. So let's pivot back to what you do.
Yeah.
Say, oh dear. I'm just going to say, a million years ago, when I was a doctor, stress was my middle name. How would you, I carry my stress when I realize I'm stressed. I get pain in my thoracic back, between my shoulder blades. How would you, if I came to you and said, what can you do for me for this? I'm feeling really, really stressed. I'm not sure where to find the time to come to you because of the job, but if by some miracle you were open and I was free, how would you first advise me?
Well, the first thing we would do is apply something there. I think human touch is very healing. And that's the first thing that I would ask, if you would be open to that. And I would utilize medical Qigong first, which is an energy healing practice. And so I would work to unblock that stagnation up front.
Is that similar to Reiki?
It is. Well, Reiki is the Japanese version and medical Qigong is the Chinese version. But that's what I would do first, because what I've experienced even in my own body, when my body is persisting with a particular pain, the touch of my own hand does a lot. Sometimes compassion can be best delivered without words.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that.
So if someone comes with that, that would be my first way of really connecting with that person. And then from there, we would go into a little bit more of a deeper reflection on the belief systems around carrying the weight of the world, around what stresses us, right? Just a deeper reflection. But that's what I would do first. And if it were virtually, then I would encourage them to do some self massage. I would show them particular points on their body that are called gates, energy gates, where they could apply their own healing.
Are those equivalent anatomically to chakra?
No.
Okay.
They are based on the meridians in the body.
Okay.
And again, this is the beauty of the different types of training that I've done. It gives me a vast toolbox to kind of support and empower people in providing their own self-care, right? And also I would encourage them to do a mental fitness program that I do. It's 8 weeks long, and it offers them the opportunity to use their phones to develop a mindfulness practice, a meditation practice, 2 minutes at a time. So it's very suitable for people with busy lifestyles who say, I don't have time for self-care, when in fact it's counterintuitive. We have to make time for that.
Yeah, it's that wonderful joke. Well, it's a true joke, unfortunately. If somebody says that I haven't got 10 minutes to meditate, yeah, well, then you need an hour. Because you need to recognize what's most important.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
and a lot of times it's a conversation that allows us to identify who we really are and what we're really thinking, and what are the belief systems that we're activating in our lives every day. Some of those belief systems we inherited, and we just need to recognize, oh, that doesn't really fit along with my experience, and then we can let them go. But if we never look at them, we can't ever do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, how everybody's sort of frame of reference, their window on the world changes over the years. As you say, yours now is very different from, say, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And mine certainly is. I'm living a completely different life from the one I lived 10 years ago. Yeah, and it is, isn't it, how our sort of outlook on things change. Do you feel most of the clients that you help wish they'd found you sooner?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very natural human response. I mean, sometimes I say that to myself. And again, it's that sage perspective. We are in the right place at the right time, at the right season. And it is important to believe that.
Yeah.
And it's counterintuitive to believe that.
Yeah, no, it's just, I wish I'd discovered hypnotherapy 25 years ago. And Denise says she wishes she was taught it in part of her medical training. And it's just, we've got to reach the younger people, haven't we? So they don't all say, I wish I found this 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I have children. I have 2 daughters. They're adults in their 30s now. And as much as I gave them of the new things that I learned, in my head, I thought, they're never going to suffer like I suffered, because they're getting it early. They still suffer some things that I would never have expected them to suffer. And there is a reality to the generational traumas we just kind of pass along, whether we want to or not. It just happens. We all come with a particular set of things that we have to experience in order to evolve. And
yeah, and then we get onto things like inherent trauma then as well, don't we? We were talking about that a few months ago, weren't we, Denise, about sort of in our blueprint, in our DNA, trauma being passed on.
Yeah. As a parent, that's a really powerful one that I have to reconcile in my own spirit, so that I avoid getting trapped into, oh, I didn't do enough. I should have done this. I have to let go of that idea. I did all that I could. I did enough, just like my parents did all that they could, and they did enough. And I have to let them go. Stop judging them for what they didn't do, and stop blaming them for what they did do.
Yeah. You don't have to reject them. You just let the blame go.
Exactly. And that loving differently is my thing right now. I mean, I just recently got married, so we just made a year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's my second marriage, and my first marriage was a disaster, 10 years. But it left me in a big gap in between, and I did not want to get married again. I was very, very against that, commitment phobic, as you would say. So I really recognized that I had to retrain myself to live a different kind of life and to be open to it, right? I had to open up my heart even more to be able to accept a partner. As much as I wanted one in my mind, the rest of me wasn't on par with that plan. And I had to go through a process. It took 10 years for me to go from just dating to getting married. I met my current husband right after right before the 2012 flooding event. And I think honestly, that if I had not been in that crisis, I never would have been open to a new love.
Yeah. Just a difference in the language there, Mayra. The way you framed that, my current husband, sounds like you've got a next one lined up.
I
know. Well, who knows? It's a big joke between him and I. I'm going to love him till I don't.
Oh, brilliant. Time's moving on, actually, Mayra. I can't believe how quickly this episode's gone. Would you like to say anything specific to our viewers and listeners about the therapies you offer, the work that you do? I think we'll hand the floor over to you for a few minutes so people can get a really good feel of what you do. And we'll put in the show notes how they can get in touch with you as well.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I would really love to invite your listeners to participate in my mental fitness program. It is 8 weeks long, and my time is very slim right now because I am taking care of my mom. But I really want to be able to provide this season that was coming up, because the holiday stress is crazy. And I'm aware of that. So I really would like to put a couple of groups through the process, because that will better prepare them for the holiday stress so that they can navigate it with ease and flow like I do. So if they are interested, I would love for them to email me, and they can add in the subject line hypnosis, and then I'll know that they're
coming from us. Okay. Wait, you said you didn't do that.
Exactly. They could say hypnosis, and then I will happily give them $100 off the program.
Wow, that's very generous of you.
That's our first. Thank you.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Denise, let me pass over to you now to wrap up the show. Okay, so that's the end of another episode. Mayra, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on. And I'm sure Denise would love to say goodbye as well.
Exactly. It's goodbye, but hopefully we'll be able to meet in person soon.
Yes, I'm all for it.
We hope you've enjoyed listening. Please remember, this podcast is designed to give you an insight into therapeutic hypnosis and is for educational purposes only. So remember, consult with your own healthcare professional if you think something you've heard may apply to you or a loved one.
If you found this episode useful, you can apply for free continuing professional development or CME credits using the link provided in the show notes. Feel free to contact either of us through the links in the show notes. Join us again next week.